Okay, we want to get to the meat of this. Our purpose here, obviously, is to take EFT and apply it to serious diseases, people who have challenging issues. One of the most obvious things about this weekend is that the guy running it, namely me, is not a doctor. And not only, you need to know, not only am I not a doctor, I know zip, or even less about medical stuff. Okay, I really don't. I've never had a course in anatomy. If I were to have some discussion with an MD on medical terms, I would get lost in about 30 seconds on any subject. And I'm not being light about that. I really don't know much about it. And in a way, I don't know much about it on purpose for this purpose. And that's because we have a totally different approach that we're using. How many here are doctors, nurses, or from the medical profession? How many? Oh, look at that. Would you hold your hands up a little bit more? Oh, good. I'd bet you that's 8 or 10%. That's tremendous. We used to have one person every once in a while, but now we got a substantial group. As a result of the fact that I am not a physician, those who are working with me up here need to take charge of your own emotional and physical well-being. I might ask you to bend or do something, or take a deep breath or something, and you're the one taking charge of your own circuit. If there's something inappropriate about you doing that, you don't do it. You tell me that. The same way with you in the audience. Many of you are going to be borrowing benefits and tapping right along with this, and I'll give you instructions later for that. But you also need to take complete charge of your own physical and emotional well-being. Okay? Now, we're going to have emotional assistants to help along with that, and I'll introduce them in a bit, but I want to make that point now. Now, I want to just spend a moment talking about the difference in approaches between what EFT is doing and what we're going to do today and this weekend and what the medical profession does. And I only choose the medical profession because it's the most prominently known healing technique out there. The medical profession tends to study the body. They study the chemicals that go on in the body. They study the body parts that are in there. All the cells, everything that goes, how all the stuff works together. And so they address the body as, and excuse the oversimplification because I want to make a larger point, they study it as though it was a bag of chemicals and body parts. And so they study the body and say, oh, this is what's wrong. We have a so-and-so chemical imbalance here. And so we will take another chemical called a drug to counteract that, in oversimplified terms. Okay? Or this organ, something's wrong with this organ and it's causing a problem here, so we'll radiate it, or we'll use chemotherapy with it, or we'll do surgery on it, or something like that. That is the general approach. It takes a lot of dedication to learn all of that. There are lots of things the medical profession does that are just indispensable. For example, if I were to have an about-to-burst appendix, I'm not about to sit there and say, gee, I wish it didn't burst, okay? I'm going to gleefully jump up on top of the surgeon's table and be so thankful that they were there. I give you all that because by contrast, which is what I want to do here, EFT has a completely different approach. We're not getting involved at all with medicines or surgeries or anything like that. We're going to make an assumption here, right or wrong, that the cause of these various diseases is an energetic imbalance in the system and or unresolved emotional issues, guilts, fears, angers, and the stuff we all collect over lifetimes and decades and so on that have built up and manifested in the body as various ailments, illnesses, and so on. As a result, we don't tell people whether they should or should not take medicines. I mean, that's up to them and their doctor, and so on. We are coming from a totally different approach, and one thing I want to emphasize is I am making the assumption up here every time, always making the assumption, that the true cause is not a virus, it is not all these other things that may have occurred, that the medical profession may point to, and that doesn't make the medical profession wrong, it's just a different approach. We're coming from the approach that the true cause is either an energetic imbalance and or unresolved emotional issues. That is going to be the assumption, right or wrong, okay? And that you will see that assumption here over and over and over and over again, and you can assess for yourselves what's happening here, how valid that may be. That does not mean this is the only answer, even if we get the world's greatest results, but it is, I think, an important part of the healing process. Now, let me see. There's one other thing I want to talk about, which I think both the EFT approach and the medical approach needs to pay attention to. And that is what I call, how am I going to say this? It's a different order here. I am tempted to start what's called the EFT Medical University and issue doctorates, okay? And all you have to do to have this doctorate, Dr. EFT, whatever it is, okay, from this medical university, is you need to understand and practice the following sentence. If you want to avoid or cure most diseases, stop causing them. The body does have its way of healing itself, okay? But I want to tell you a story, because, I mean, while we laugh about that, you know, the kind of stuff that we eat and drink, I mean, just the water that we drink has got chlorine in it and metals and all kinds of other stuff in it. The foods we eat are not natural. They tend to be prepared. They have herbicides, pesticides, yada, 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 yada in them. And we keep eating this stuff. It's like putting bad gasoline in a car. You know, the car may run for a while, but sooner or later you're going to have more repairs in that car. It's not going to last as long. The same kind of thing, okay? But I want to tell you a little personal story, which is not really a serious disease, but it does illustrate a point. This has to do with stop causing it, okay? 3 or 4 years ago, I started noticing that I had to urinate more often. I had to pee. I had to go use the bathroom more than was normal. And I didn't think too much about it to begin with. Oh, it'll go away. But it just kept getting a little worse and kept getting a little worse and kept getting a little worse, you know. And eventually it got to the point when it peaked where I was getting up at night. I would go to bed, and in the 2 hours, first 2 hours of going to bed, I'd get up a dozen times to pee. Okay? And then after that, I'd get up 5 or 6 times during the night to pee. And I'd be peeing 2 or 3 times each hour, maybe 4 times each hour during the day. And so I did the obvious thing. You know, I had the prostate checked. It's fine. I had a PSA test, which is a blood test about the prostate, with 0.69, which is supposed to be excellent. Okay. I had ultrasound done. I saw the docs, and they checked the ultrasound, you know, on the prostate and the kidney and all the bladder and everything else that goes with it. No problem. Zero problem. Okay. Nobody could find anything, and yet I was sitting there peeing all the time. Okay. So I did happen to notice that when I left my home and went on a workshop, like I'm doing here now, I'm away from home, the problem went away. Interesting, huh? It would go away. After maybe 24 to 48 hours, no problem. I come back home, 24 to 48 hours, problem. Here it is. So obviously, somehow, somewhere, I'm causing this problem. Something is going on. Now, one might say, well, you're not causing it, Gary, because you don't even know what it is. Well, I choose to say I'm causing it, whether I know what it is or not. Because if I don't do that, then I don't really go find the cause. Okay? And so I did elimination diets. You know, chicken only for a while. Organic chicken only. Well, no. And then only carrots. And I did a whole bunch of stuff like that and eliminated some stuff and had single diets and all that. And it never made a difference. Little bits here and there, and then things would get better. Or things would get better, maybe just a little bit, and then they'd get worse. It just kept bouncing back. And one of the things, and this is an important thing to know as an EFTer, by the way, I was doing EFT all the time for this. And when I do EFT, I would get temporary relief. Very important to recognize. EFT, I would get temporary relief. And here it comes again. Temporary relief, here it comes again. Temporary relief, here it comes again. And that, to me, is a huge clue, and you might want to put this in your notes, that if you're using EFT and you get on a physical issue and you're getting temporary relief, and it comes back, somehow or other, chances are you're doing something to cause that problem. Because whatever you're eating, drinking, wearing, or whatever it is that's causing it is overriding whatever benefit you may have gotten out of EFT temporarily. Anyway, I kept puzzling over this, and then one day I was reading Dr. Mercola's newsletter. www.mercola.com is his email, is his website. And he talked in there about a problem with Teflon if you use Teflon at high heats, that can be toxic to people. And then I remembered 3 or 4 years ago, which is about when all this started, my mother gave me a Teflon frying pan. Okay? I never used it on high heat. It was always medium heat. But I threw the frying pan away. And the problem went away with it. Okay? Now, that's not a serious disease, etc. But I really want to make the point to that, because sometimes we'll be doing this tapping and we'll be getting temporary relief. And we can say, well, EFT's not working here. Well, it did work. You got temporary relief. You got something happened that doesn't ordinarily happen using it. But chances are something else is going on that's causing it. That's important to know. Not only for EFT, but for the medical profession, it's really important to know. So instead of using, other means, if you could just eliminate the cause, whatever it may be, it may take some detective work to find it. It could be as simple as that for some problems that are quite annoying. Anyway, let me go on here. As I do these sessions with folks, I have a little category here that says what to expect. I want to just kind of, if I can, dispel a myth for a moment, and that is this idea about 1-minute wonders. One of the nice little parts of EFT is we'll do EFT on like a headache or a specific memory or something like that, and quite often just poof, within a minute or a very short period of time, it's just gone. We call it a 1-minute wonder. How many have experienced that? Look at that, see? The problem with that is people, especially newcomers, will come to EFT and they'll read about 1-minute wonders and they think that's what they want it to be, by the way. Everything's a 1-minute wonder. We want instant everything, so I've got this serious whatever it is, so why doesn't it go away in 1 minute? Okay? So I want to get beyond that. Yes, we have 1-minute wonders, and yes, they're delightful, etc. But just because we don't get a 1-minute wonder doesn't mean it doesn't work. It doesn't mean you stop doing it. A lot of issues are very challenging, and that's why we're having serious diseases up here. We're having challenging issues. I don't expect, although it can happen, I don't expect all of a sudden, a minute or two up here and somebody's serious disease is dissipated. No, chances are there's many aspects to it. There's many pieces to it. There's many emotional issues involved, energetic issues, maybe even some dietary issues, I don't know, that are contributing to all of this. So we may see a 1-minute wonder or two and some symptoms up here. But I don't want professionals here to think, oh my goodness, 1-minute wonders occur even with serious disease. Well, they may with some symptoms, okay? But that doesn't mean it occurs across the board. So anyway, we're not looking for 1-minute wonders here. What we are looking for up here is good starts. Now, one of the things you'll find me doing here is going in several doors, and that's very important to recognize, especially for those of you who are professionals and those of you who want to apply this to yourselves. We may take one approach. I may walk in this particular door with this particular approach to try to see what we can do with EFT, and we may go no place or just get modest results or none whatsoever. That doesn't mean it doesn't work. It means you've got to come back and go in another door, and then come back and go in another door, and come back and go in another. You always want to keep approaching the doors, keep going in doors, because there's lots of different doors, and you'll see a lot of those displayed here. A lot of them are also on our website and our other videos and so on, but they're going to come to life here. So we're expecting here with folks a good start. One of the things that's going to be very important that I've seen so far with serious diseases is that we it's pretty rare we just vanish something like that, at least with a session or two like we might have here. But the difference that I've seen so far with those who get continued relief towards cure and those who don't using EFT is whether or not they continue to tap after here. A lot of people think, we're conditioned to sort of think, we're conditioned by our fast food industry. I'm hungry, I go eat, I go put a little money down, I'm full, instantly taken care of. This will take a little longer. Let me give you two examples. There was a fellow, his name was Bruce, that's on our audio tapes in the EFT course. Bruce had MS, and Adrian, if you recall, was working with him on the telephone. And he was in a wheelchair, and he had all kinds of physical symptoms. He had urinary problems, he had back problems, he had numbness problems, couldn't stand up and walk, and all kinds of things were going on with him. One by one, see, over the telephone, you could hear this on this thing, he's getting better. He gets out of his wheelchair and starts walking around. You know, his back problems start to go away. The numbness in his hands and his knees and so on start to go away. And his wife at one point, he was on speakerphone, you could hear her say, "This is a miracle." Okay? And so Adrian, so he had all these great results. I mean, it's fabulous results. Nobody could listen to that audio without going, "Wow," you know. And then Adrian calls him 2 or 3 months later and says, "Bruce, how you doing?" He says, "Oh, not so good, you know. I've got my MS is back." And well, have you been tapping? He says, "Well, no." Okay. Now, what I've just pointed out there is one of the mysteries we have about all of this. Yes, we're getting results, and yes, they're obvious. Do people keep tapping? They tend not to. It's the same kind of thing where the doctor will prescribe the medications to patients, and they'll tend not to take them. Okay, for whatever reason that is. That's a mystery. I see Dr. Flowers down here has got a little smile on his face. You've been there, right?
Oh, many times.
Yeah. That's one of our mysteries. I don't know what to do about that, but let me contrast that, if I will. In Springfield here a few months ago, the first lady that I dealt with had, how many were in Springfield? Oh, look at that. Yeah, but maybe 10% of you, or 15%. The first lady, if you remember her, had MS, and she chose that day to take, instead of 100% of the medications he was taking, which was a lot of medications, she only took 30%. That 30%, which she must take because otherwise she has to wean off of it. And she did that so that her symptoms would be, they wouldn't be masked by what we were going to do with EFT. She wanted to do that. It was her choice. And so we did that, and we had just fabulous results with her. You may remember, while she was bending over and doing things she couldn't possibly do otherwise, the thing that got to her was her thumb was no longer numb. It was a big deal for her. My thumb is no longer numb. Now, in her case, she kept tapping. And I talked to her, gosh, a month ago, I guess it was, 6 weeks ago maybe. This is several months after we did our work on stage. And she's now using 15% of her meds every day, okay? Instead of what was 100%. In conjunction with her doctor, et cetera, but she's just not having the symptoms, and she keeps tapping. So I'm emphasizing that. It's really, 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 really important, especially for you as professionals and those of you with serious diseases. We can get a good start, but a start is a start. You need to keep doing it for these processes. Now, I'll contrast that again with the 1-minute wonders. Often with the 1-minute wonders, we do a 1-minute wonder and it's gone. You never have to tap again, nothing. The height phobia just is not there, and you can't find it, and the headaches don't come back, and all that stuff, okay? Tends not to be that way with the serious diseases.